Aloha. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. So I've actually sent my letter to Bernie Sanders. I've had a couple other people send it to Bernie Sanders. I'd love for you to do the same. Send it to the Green Party of America, or of the United States. They like the letter, and they're going to have some people send it. So, or actually, they're going to sign on to it. They're going to have a bunch of different parties sign on to it. Then we're going to, or a bunch of different state parties sign on to it. Then we're going to send it as a big letter with parties signed on to it, however you call that. All right.
When it comes to questions about who is the administrator of Doge, actually, do you believe that's an important question to have the answer to?
No, the issue is not who is technically the administrator, who has the title. Elon Musk is clearly running the show, the wealthiest person in the world, who has enormous conflicts of interests, who is helping to fund right-wing extremist organizations all over the world, who is looking forward to get massive tax breaks from
right-wing extremist organizations all over the world. It's pretty much the United States, the FBI, the CIA. We go around the world killing or destroying left-wing countries, leaders, movements, all over the place. We are a right-wing extremist country, movement, whatever.
Congress. He's running the show.
So if he's running the show but not on paper, as they essentially are.
Let's see here.
Have we ever tried to meddle in other countries' elections?
Oh, probably, but it was for the good of the system in order to avoid the communists from taking over. For example, in Europe, in 47, 48, 49, the Greeks and the Italians, we
don't do that
CIA.
now, though? We don't mess around other people's elections,
only for a very good
Can
cause.
you do that? Do a Vine video on a former CIA director.
Only for a very good cause in the interest of democracy.
So again, Trump is nothing new.
They argue, but you say in practice, he basically is. You're a co-equal branch of government as a senator on
Are we? I kind of thought so, but I think you have to explain that to the president.
Do you feel that you have oversight when it comes to what Elon Musk is doing?
Look, what we're seeing right now, Caitlin, is a very dangerous moment. I'm laughing here, but it is not funny. This country is moving very rapidly under Trump into an authoritarian form of society.
Take an idea that nobody supports, literally nobody, and it has about a 30% chance of becoming federal law. Now, take an incredibly popular idea, the most popular idea this country has ever seen, and there's also about a 30% chance of it becoming law. This means that the number of American voters for or against any idea has no impact on the likelihood that Congress will make it law. Put another way, and I'm just going to quote the Princeton study directly here, the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. So if you've ever felt like your opinion doesn't matter and that the government doesn't really care what you think, well, you're right. But there's a catch. This flat line only accounts for the bottom 90% of income earners in America. Economic elites, business interests, people who can afford lobbyists, they get their own line.
Yes, they do.
Look at how much closer their line is to the ideal. When they want something, the government is much more likely to do it. And when they don't, they have the power to completely block it from happening, no matter how much the rest of the country supports it. They get what they want, and guess who ends up paying for it? We pay for it with the most.
So yeah, basically, rich people running our country is what our country is and always has been.
The founding fathers, way back in the 1770s, these were
rich white men. Made the country for rich white men. Nobody else can make any decisions. You see any correlation between Elon Musk or Donald Trump and our founding fathers thinking only certain people of a certain ilk, of a certain look, should be allowed to make decisions? What are you going to say about the founding fathers?
Nobody's fools.
They were nobody's fools.
They had fought the King of England in the 70s. These were nobody's fools.
Nobody's fools.
And they had fought the King of England, an autocrat, had all the power, and they said, you know what? We don't want that.
They said, you know what? We want to be the dictator. We want to be the rich person that has slaves and whips people and runs things and makes all the decisions.
In the new country. We're going to set up 3 separate equal branches of government.
But what does that mean when you have three separate equal branches of government, but only rich people can get into those branches of government? You're still ran by autocrats, a monarchy, an oligarchy, whatever you want to call it. That's why there's so many words for the same thing. Is that so that we can't just hone down on capitalism and call it what it is? They got all these words. And were the founding fathers kings? No, because they didn't call themselves kings, but they were legislators and slave owners, and they were dictators on their own plantation, right? They had no one to answer to. No one was going to stop them from doing exactly what they wanted. So were they kings by term? No, but were they kings by definition? Pretty much, yes.
The kid in the 6th grade knows who they are, but Trump does not. And what Trump is doing now is
Who are the
equal
kids now?
branches of government.
Oh, the
Every kid
branches
in
of
the
government.
6th grade knows who they are, but Trump does not. And what Trump is doing now is trying every day to usurp the powers of Congress, to challenge the powers of the court.
See, Trump wants to usurp the powers of all the other people that the founders didn't let in government. If it was just the people that the founders would let in government, Trump would be fine. Elon Musk would be fine. They'd be doing exactly what they're doing, but it'd be the norm, still the norm, right? Like, it's just, I don't understand why people are acting like it's so outlandish that they're acting like the founding fathers, but then you're going to go back to the founding fathers and be like, they would turn over in their graves or something. They would be like, yes, this is what we meant for this to be. Rich white men running everything.
Is a very dangerous moment.
Well, the question, though, when it comes to what this looks like, is we haven't seen a ton of
I
resistance
bet they said that when the forefathers started taking over too.
from Capitol Hill, and we have seen some efforts in the courts. These Democratic attorneys general stepped in, but today a federal judge here, Tanya Chutkan, she's well known to our audience from the Trump trials, she declined to block Musk and his team from getting access because she basically said she wasn't getting specific enough examples from these AGs about how Musk could cause irreparable harm to their state. And if they can't prove that in court, what does that say?
But again, it's no different. I just showed you the chart. They've been making decisions for us since the beginning of the U.S. That's what it is. It's been a corporate state since the beginning. It's for rich white men. It's for rich people. It said that. Wealthy. Not rich, wealthy.
Well,
landowning,
I happen
but still,
to believe.
it's wealthy.
At the end of the day, the struggle against Trump, the struggle against oligarchy, which is led by Elon Musk.
Another one of the same terms: oligarchy, monarchy, rich. What was it? All those words are the same. Capitalism, fascism. It's all the same.
The struggle against authoritarianism, the fight to make sure that the working class of this country gets a fair shake. That is not going to be won here in Capitol Hill. It's going to be won by millions of people all over this country standing up and saying, you know what? We fought and died for democracy. We're not going to move toward authoritarianism.
I just want to hear you say it again, Bernie.
That is not going to be won here in Capitol Hill. It's going to be won by millions of people all over this country standing up.
So that's not the Democrats, right? It's not going to be won on Capitol Hill. The Democrats aren't going to do it. People, a grassroots movement around the world, around the country, Green Party is the only party that, unless you feel the DSA or PSL, one of the three, just bring them together. Coalition of the left, coalition of the people.
Up and saying, you know what? We fought and died for democracy. We're not going to move toward authoritarianism. We fought to create a country that works for all.
Want the effects of Viagra?
Not just the billionaire class. That's the struggle, and I'm going to be active in trying to rally the American people to do just that.
Well,
But we had to fight the system to get that. The system was set up for the billionaire class. They were the landowning class at the time, but they were the wealthy. It was not set up for the people. We have to fight the system that was set up and change it to make it for us if we want it for us.
You're embarking on this tour to combat this. It's a national tour. You're starting in Nebraska and Iowa. How do you break through to people, though? There are some people, Trump voters, who are even independent voters, who like what Elon Musk is doing and say, yeah, the federal government does spend too much money and it is too bloated.
And the truth is, the
What do you
federal
say to
government is a bureaucracy. We have to acknowledge that. Federal government perfect, far from it. Do we need to bring about reforms? Absolutely.
How are we going to bring about reforms? We need you to get in it. People need to get in the Green Party. We need to vote in regular people, and we'll do what needs to be done in the government. If you have these corporate people that get in the Democratic or Republican Party, they're going to pass corporate policies that are for corporations, like you saw on the chart that I just showed, and it's going to be for the corporation, not for the people. That's how it is. That's what they do.
Is a bureaucracy. We have to acknowledge that. Federal government perfect? Far from it. Do we need to bring about reforms? Absolutely.
How are we gonna do that,
But let
Bernie?
us be clear what these guys really want to do. Do you think that Elon Musk is
Okay, so I would have liked if he would have said how we were going to bring about reforms. So my idea was people infiltrating the government that's supposed to be for and by the people, right? If it's for and by the people, you people need to get in the government. Like, that's just part of it. That's what we have to do. It's just part of our civic duty, is that some of us need to run. So I decided I'm going to run. Some of you need to run. So get in the Green Party and let's take over our government and make decisions for people, not corporations.
staying up night just worrying about excessive spending in the CDC? I don't think so. At the end of the day, what these guys want and what Trump wants is to cut programs that working class people need. They're talking, the House Budget Committee released their report, their budget, $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. Do you know what that means? It's not only that
Beating a dead horse, but Barack Obama had the House, the Senate, could have passed universal health care. They don't do it when they're in. They talk a bunch of stuff when Donald Trump is in. They want to protest and say, do this, do that. When they could have said it when Biden was in 2 months ago, right? 3 months ago, Biden was in office. They could have said, hey, Biden, pass these things before Trump gets in. They didn't. At the very beginning of Biden's term, they could have said, Biden, let's pass universal health care. Let's raise the minimum wage. Let's do a multitude of things. They didn't. They get loud when Republicans are in because they know Republicans will say no. They don't ask when Democrats are in because they know Democrats are supposed to say yes, and the people will get mad when they say no. It's a game. It's some WWE.
millions of people, kids, are going to be thrown off the health insurance they have. Devastating to nursing homes. 40% of the revenue coming into community health centers. 30 million people get their health care, community health centers. That's coming from Medicaid. You cut Medicaid, you're going to dismember an already broken health care system. What are they going to do with that money? They're going to give it to tax breaks for the richest people in America. Over $1 trillion goes in tax breaks to the top 1%. That is what these guys want. They want more wealth. They want more.
Because John Galt knows what to do with the money way better than you. Let John Galt make the decisions, or Iluma.
Power. American people are going to have to stop them.
Well, and what you're referencing, this is like the blueprint, essentially, that we got from House Republicans. It's not clear what realistically they're going to be able to pass here, but they're looking to have 4.5 trillion in tax cuts.
Right.
And basically, this plan instructed the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, to find those $880 billion in cuts. Realistically, what should voters be worried about if you hear from some moderate Republicans who say we're not going to touch Medicaid, that's not going to be on the table?
Well, no one is saying that. I mean, right now, what we are trying to do in a House which is almost evenly divided, if two Republicans, 2 out of 435 members, say, you know what, we're not going to vote to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs that children and the elderly and the hungry desperately need. 2 Republicans.
So I'm offering this amendment, which is very simple. It prevents tax cuts for people earning over $1 million per year. So a yes vote on this amendment prevents those making $1 million a year from getting another tax handout.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach. No. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman. Mr. Norman, no. Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Houchin. Mrs. Houchin, no. Mr. Langworthy. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack.
No.
Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern.
Aye.
Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Magoo's. Mr. Magoo's, aye. Ms. Ledger Fernandez. Ms. Ledger Fernandez, aye. Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, no.
Every single Republican voted no.
Okay,
But
Bernie, we're going to
Jim
get to
McGovern took it further. He said, let's continue to test this. How rich is too rich for tax giveaways? Where is the limit? Is there a limit? Would Republicans support an amendment preventing tax giveaways for those making over $100 million per year.
Okay. Hard to believe that last vote, but I have an amendment to the rule. I move the committee make an order amendment number 79 offered by myself, which prevents tax cuts for people earning over $100 million per year. Madam Chair, every Republican just voted in lockstep to keep our unfair tax system where billionaires pay a lower effective tax rate than working people. But I want to highlight how out of touch my friends are. Again, a yes vote on this amendment prevents people earning over $100 million per year from getting another tax break. So you should vote no if you want to side with the millionaires and billionaires over working people.
The gentleman asked for a roll call. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Fishbach. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman. Mr. Norman, no. Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Hodgson. Mrs. Hodgson, no. Mr. Langworthy. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack.
No.
Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern.
Aye.
Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse. Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Ledger Fernandez. Ms. Ledger Fernandez, aye. Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, no.
The clerk will report the total.
4 yeas, 9 nays.
The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
Every Republican voted no again. They said we cannot burden those making over $100 million per year with their fair share of taxes. No, 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 no. We must prioritize punishing the poor and working class. If you can believe it, he took it even further still. He said, what about the 748 billionaires in this country who pay a lower effective tax rate than the working class? Would the Republicans also protect 748 people from paying their fair share of taxes? Do you want to guess how this one goes? Let's see.
Will my Republican colleagues join Democrats to prevent tax breaks for billionaires? I mean, billionaires? There are 748 billionaires in the United States. That's it. And a lot of them pay a lower effective tax rate than the people we represent because of all the loopholes that you've been successful in getting into the tax code. So I asked my colleagues, who do you stand with? Constituents or the billionaires? So a yes vote on this amendment means you stand with your constituents. A no vote is to vote to protect the 748 billionaires in this country from paying what they should pay in taxes.
Mrs. Fishbach. No. Mrs. Fishbach, no. Mr. Norman. No. Mr. Norman, no. Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy, no. Mrs. Hodgson. Mrs. Hodgson, no. Mr. Langworthy. Mr. Langworthy, no. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, no. Mr. Jack.
No.
Mr. Jack, no. Mr. McGovern.
Aye.
Mr. McGovern, aye. Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon, aye. Mr. Neguse. Mr. Neguse, aye. Ms. Ledger Fernandez. Ms. Ledger Fernandez, aye. Madam Chair.
No.
Madam Chair, no.
The clerk will report the total.
4 yeas, 9 nays.
The noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
All right, and so if you're like, oh, well, billionaires pay enough in taxes, this and that, the percentage of the money you make, like if you make 50% of GDP, you need to pay 50% of taxes. Like if the bottom 50% of people only bring in 20% of the U.S. income, we can only pay up to 20% of the U.S. taxes. Like the other 80% needs to be paid by the other entities, people, businesses, whatever, making that other 80% of taxes. If they only pay on a small portion, less than $1 million, was it? Less than $1 million of their tax, of their income, then that's like 99.9% of their income not being taxed and just being taken out of the economy. I guess Bernie might have an idea of how to flip these Republicans. Let's see, though.
Republicans, their proposal is dead. And we're going to work hard to make sure not only we get 2, they'll get a hell of a lot more than 2. We're not going to vote to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs that children and the elderly and the hungry desperately need. 2, Republicans, their proposal is dead. And we're going to work hard to make sure not only we get 2, they'll get a hell of a lot more than 2.
On the Elon Musk front,
I'd like to hear how he's going to get more than 2, though. Like, I like the confidence, but what are you going to say to them?
when it comes to Social Security payments and what is actually wrong with government and what's exaggerated. We're hearing this line from the White House that tens of millions of people are getting Social Security fraudulently. Either they're dead or...
I don't believe that for a second.
Well, we've gotten no evidence of it, but I looked into...
The first thing I thought, they're talking about people who are 150 years old getting paychecks, people 120, whatever. Obviously, he's talking about dead people getting paychecks. Dead people don't cash checks. Now, I'm assuming that they think that these check payments are going to people and that they're like, oh, all this waste and fraud. Now, to write the check and and to send it out, there's a little bit of waste there. I wouldn't call that fraud if they don't know that the people are dead, or if they're just like, oh, we send checks to people until we make sure they're dead, just because we'd rather them have a check than not, in case they are alive. But once you're dead, you stop cashing checks, and you're not allowed to cash a check in somebody else's name. You're not even allowed to deposit a check in somebody else's name. Maybe if they sign something over to you. And I would think that's probably pretty rare, but that's even still just a person committing fraud and then just spending the money. That's not like government fraud.
This, and what we do know is that there's a lot of people that still remain in the database, but as far as people who are actually getting payments, it was 44,000 who got payments according to an audit that was done in 2023.
Out of how many millions?
There's tens of millions.
Tens
so when
of
they say tens of millions, that would be
this is
a third of
what
people
we are
who on
dealing
Social
with.
Security.
We're not only dealing with oligarchy, the incredible power of the very, very rich. We're not only dealing with a move toward authoritarianism, we're dealing with what is new to America. You know, politicians have always lied, nothing new about that. But the level that we're seeing right now, the big lie, over and over again, and it goes out, there's a big lie, and then it goes out on Musk's Twitter to, several hundred million people, repeat it over and over again. Now the word is out there, oh, people on Social Security, 150 years of age, can you believe it? The whole thing is corrupt, it's broken. Well, where does that lead you, Caitlin? What's the next step? If government can't do anything, if Social Security doesn't work, if Medicare doesn't work.
What's the next step? If your government's not working for you, what's the next step? Get in your government, join the Green Party, get active and do something. Become part of the government so that we can cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. A billionaire is not going to do it. And if they do it, they're going to do it for themselves in a way that they want, because that's how they became a billionaire. If we want the government to work for people, we need people to get in the government. That's just how it is. It's basically, that's the bottom line.
If Medicaid doesn't work, we're going to get rid of all of those programs, and we're going to give it over.
If Medicaid isn't working, we need to get doctors, teachers, personal trainers, people who care and know about health and care and know about people. We need these people in government.
In our class to run it.
That's what you think they're ultimately trying to do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, not only do
Social Security.
they want massive cuts to programs for the working class in this country in order to give tax breaks to the very rich, and then they want to move to the privatization of every important government agency. Just the other day. Yes?
But see, like, this country started with no tax on the rich and 100% tax on the working class, right? And so, yes, they're trying to get MAGA, right? They're trying to go back to those days. And so when people long for the days or talk about the founding fathers or how great it was back in these days, they're just telling MAGA that, yeah, you're right, we should go back there. You should never speak about the founding fathers as like, oh, yeah, they were these great people who did great things for our country. Like, they founded this country, I guess, yeah, but they were dictators themselves. Each one had their own plantation that they were the kings of. They were kings, dictators, whatever you want to call it. And that's exactly what Donald Trump and Elon Musk want to be. That is their MAGA dream. So it's just weird when I hear people like Bernie talk and say stuff like that. It's crazy.
This really upset me because I used to be chairman of the Veterans Committee, and I feel very strongly about making sure that those men and women who put their lives on the line to defend this country get a fair shake. Right away, 1,000 employees at the VA laid off at a time when the VA healthcare system.
And then why are they laying all these people off when they're supposed to be creating jobs? Like, I don't know, is every job going to be a construction job or like a warehouse job or something like that? I don't understand. Like, you're going to have just some jobs maybe that you're just paying people to do a little bit of stuff. I don't know. Like, that's the part of automation. Automation took away a human being's need to really work. A person can do 1,000 times or infinite amount of times depending on what we're talking about. When it comes to digging in the earth, like those big machines, we can do stuff we could never do before, right? So we can do work that has never been done, and we can do the amount of work, like going through those self-checkout lines, right? So if we're automating to lower the amount of work needed to be done to live, then we need to lower the amount of work we need to do in a work week, or just eliminate it and let people live. Oh no, I went back.
American people done. Right away, 1,000 employees at the VA laid off at a time when the VA healthcare system certainly needs more help than they have right now. So at the end of the day, yeah, they're going to want to privatize Veterans Administration, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the post office, by the way.
If President Trump were seated next to you, he might say, well, I pledged on the campaign trail that I'm not going to touch Social Security.
Yeah.
What would you say to voters to bring
I
that
think
up?
the president has many attributes, but credibility and honesty are not one of them. So I would have my doubts. I'm not saying they're going to go after Social Security tomorrow. They're not. But this is the groundwork. I mean, this is what you do. You destroy the credibility of programs that are complicated, programs that have tens of millions of people in it. This is the welfare queen again. Look at this person. They got this, they got that. Kill the whole program.
Well, the interesting part about that is actually before Trump took office, the Treasury Department clawed back and recovered $31 million in payments from Social Security that shouldn't have gone out that went out. That was something that they were doing over a 5-month period to deceased individuals. But the point is, I think, that what the Doge team says they're doing was already happening. They were going back and getting the money that was being.
And all that I would ask the American people to understand is that when you have programs dealing with tens of millions of people, is anyone going to say, hey, there is no fraud, everything is running efficiently? Of course not. There are going to be problems. Every bloody program out there, there are going to be problems. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
So what's the solution?
The solution is.
But I mean, that's the same with, say, Walmart, banks, Target, any big business, probably any small business. There's going to be some fraud. Like the fraud in a small business would be like your employee stealing, probably, or something like that. But like those banks, what was it? Wells Fargo, they committed, was it billions of dollars in fraud, stealing from the people that go to their bank. They had employees making fake bank accounts for people and all this stuff and moving money around in weird ways or whatever. And they got found guilty and they got fined millions of dollars and they had stole billions of dollars. So big businesses do it too. You got the Panama Papers. That's a lot of fraud. That's business fraud instead of government fraud. But there's a lot of fraud when it comes to money, and profit is what you want, and that's the number one goal. That's what you're going to go for, is profit. You're going to commit fraud to get it.
They are concerned about
The
fraud
solution
and bloat.
The solution is that, of course, we try to get rid of fraud and waste and abuse. And maybe they want to take some of their.
And again, how do we come about the solution? How do we get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse in the government? Get into the government.
Onto the corporate world, the kind of price fixing that goes on there as well. But we want to get rid of fraud and waste, but at the same time, we want to make sure that programs that people desperately need, like Social Security, remain strong. And you know what? You go out and ask the American people whether they want to cut Social Security. They don't want to cut it. They want to expand it. They want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision. They want to expand Medicaid. In fact, as you well know.
And how is dental, dental and vision different? I didn't know if hearing was, but dental, vision, and hearing, how is that not part of healthcare? If you can't see or eat, you're not going to be healthy, especially if you can't eat. Like, I mean, I guess you could be blind, right? And you get around blind and whatnot, but if you ain't got no teeth, if your teeth don't work and you can't nourish your body, how are you going to do anything else? That's crazy that vision and dental is not part of healthcare in the world.
No, we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all people. Healthcare should be a right. Most Americans agree with that.
You're an independent, but you caucus with the Democrats.
Right.
We have heard from a lot of Democrats privately, some publicly, who say they don't essentially know how to respond to Trump on Capitol Hill. Are there things that you could be doing to respond to them claiming Social Security is?
Yeah, of course, we got to, I think there's an effort to bring forth a war room. There's a ton of lies and misinformation going out there to respond to that. But the truth of the matter is
a war room, is that enough? I mean, Trump was elected 3 months ago.
Yeah, well, one of the things, what's not enough is that Elon Musk could say the most outrageous thing tomorrow. It goes out to hundreds of millions of people. Democrats do not have that capability, which takes us to a couple of other issues. It takes us to the fact that should a guy who put, 207.
Well, Democrats should use social media better. They should be on YouTube shows. They should be on, like, TikTok a lot more. And I've heard some people, like, was it Cory Booker? He had like a a list that he sent out to tell people, the Democrats, how to get on social media better and get their word out or whatnot. And I've seen some centrists making fun of him for that. But it's like, you do need to get out there more. Like Elon Musk and Donald Trump are all over Twitter and Truth Social or whatever, right? So and people follow them big on that. And it would help Democrats to do better on social media, and it would really, really help the Green Party and the rest of the world if we could do better on social media, which is something I'm looking into trying to get. And if you're good at social media, leave a comment, let me know, hit me an email. I would love to talk to you. We need better social media in the Green Party. We know this, and we're looking for people to help us out.
$70 million into Trump's campaign, now become the most important person in the government? Is that really how democracy is supposed to work? Which takes you...
But that's how the U.S. has always worked. Again, the video from earlier, the chart, the link will be in the description below if you want to watch that full video about corruption in the U.S. government and the rich people having their own line versus our 30% line. That's something everybody needs to know about.
To a corrupt campaign finance system and the need to overturn citizens.
All right, and just keep. Well, I'm gonna start cutting things in like I did on this video. I think like that when I'm watching stuff. I think back and forth to stuff I've seen before. So I'm gonna try to start doing that a little more. If you guys like that, let me know. Leave more likes. Leave a comment. Tell me about it. Yeah. Other than that, thank you for the new subscribers and keep coming back to Across the Spectrum.